I am God on 5-MeO DMT. DMT. Upon inhalation, there is a large rush of energy. Almost like being fired out of a cannon with ever-increasing speed to infinite. The ego cannot hold on, and within seconds I am free. Free to be myself in every sense of the word. Freedom from my self-made prison I seem to always find myself back in. I state I am God. My voice is deep and rich. I state I am reality. I feel perfect. There is not a care as simple ideas do not exist. I am one with reality. I state that I am God and I am reality 10 to 15 more times. My body opens up and the illusion of control is obliterated. My body is moving to the energy being produced by the heart. My hands begin to mirror themselves as my body opens in bilateral symmetry. I roll onto my back with my feet in the air and back again into a sitting position. The entire movement is smooth and graceful. I am one with reality. I create my experience. What more am I looking for? On 5-MeO DMT it is so obvious. Everything that exists is because of me. There is nothing to find because what I am looking for is where I am looking from. I guess it will take at least one more round. DMT hugging aliens. So last night I smoked DMT, had a very beautiful experience. I've decided that this was probably the deepest comprehensible experience Eve had on any psychedelics. So I loaded up the bubble, took my first hit, absolutely filled my lungs. As I healed it I got that strange classic DMT head change. Everything becomes more HD, almost has a strange tint to it. The pipe starts to get alien shapes in it. I hold until I feel the urge to breath, then I let it out and take a deep breath. Time for hit number 2. Second hit, I fill my lungs again. I see the world begin to change, I feel my body going lax. I go to heat the pipe, but begin to lose motor function and quickly hand the pipe to my friend. I fall back and close my eyes. I see a folding room with strange organic colorful shapes all over it. I see a strange alien-like lady dancing in the middle, turning in and out of fluid states. Every time she turns into a fluid state her body parts become the shapes taking over the room. This goes on for what feels like a very long time. I have the sense that I'm dead and this is my afterlife. Every time she comes back she's dancing, enticing me to follow her deeper. I'm totally in love and terrified at the same time. The folding room goes deeper and folds and morphs in ways Eve never seen. I quickly get that though I have never been this deep, felt this sense of love and terror at the same time ever in my life. I try to open my eyes and the world that I once knew is completely incomprehensible. So I close my eyes again and am back following my alien lady. Everything goes deeper and faster, I don't want to wake go but I'm scared shitless. Then the lady finally turned into a spiral of legs and arms, and I shoot through the spiral. Now I'm in outer space staring at this vibrating metallic crystal shaped ball thing. I'm staring at this ball absolutely in awe. I want to be scared but I can't be, it's too beautiful. I then see a bunch of arms come and pull me in for a hug. The arms are pink and white, they don't look like human arms, but I could defiantly feel the love. I felt them say, "Don't worry, don't be afraid, you finally made it, we love you, we will never stop loving you, we're all one, we're all the same, you are us." I hugged them back and I had a huge alien cuddle session in outer space. I never wanted to leave but I felt it's time to go, come back soon, don't forget we love you. I opened my eyes and started crying and realized that was what Eve been trying to get since my start with LSD many years ago. I felt a sense of accomplishment. I felt for the first time unconditional loss without judgment for the things Eve done in my past. For a long time I felt like I didn't deserve to be loved because I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. I abuse my body and that's my way of coping when I get hurt. Whether it's heroin, pills, booze, crack, or cocaine, those are my loves. I've left many broken-hearted in fear of having my heart broken. But now I feel like I could never have that fear again. I feel like I've gotten over the edge and to the end. I finally feel alive and free. My first full-on ego death. DMT. So last night, I had the absolute craziest DMT trip of my life, and I just can't stop thinking about it, so I feel that I have to share. Warning, this will be long. I've done DMT about 15-ish times, not exactly sure, but I know I've really always held myself back from a real breakthrough. Last night was my birthday, and a buddy of mine decided to buy some DMT for the celebration. It was just a few other close friends that I've known since birth and me so, and we were listening to music by the pool. The dude who bought it had actually never tried it before, so I talked to him, and another friend through their first trips before doing any myself. I gave them about 100 milligrams or less to make sure they had positive first experiences with the drug. Side note, both loved it, and will continue to experiment at their own pace in the future. Anyways, I loaded up a bowl for myself of about the same size, and had a great little blast off. I saw some cool shit whatever, but that's not what this story is about, because after I came down, I knew I wasn't finished yet. So I packed a bowl with about 400 milligrams, and went in for the most eye-opening psychedelic experience in my entire life. First, I'll explain my perception of the situation, then I'll tell you what really happened from my friends' perspectives, and how I made sense of it all. So I take the fattest rip I can, hold it in. My brother was trying to take the bong before I fully went into my trip. Still, I said no, and I kept hitting that bong and holding it in until it was all gone. I then told everyone that I was going to go to sleep. When I looked up, my vision was divided into 4 equal parts. I was lying down on some sort of DMT dimensional island, and my dad walked up and asked me if I was doing okay. Not precisely my dad, but some psychedelic DMT form of my dad. I knew it was him because, for some reason, the top of his bald-ass head was shining like the sun. This immediately reminded me of a different experience, unrelated to psychedelics, where I blacked out and woke up in the hospital with my dad looking down on me. After that realization, it was like something within me just snapped, and I completely lost it. Full-on ego death. If you know how they say the human mind is unable to honestly imagine what nothing is like, well, that's precisely what I experienced at that moment, nothing. My mind felt gone. I didn't know where I was, what I had just smoked, or even my own name. At this point, I was somewhat coherent again, and I was just trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. I had realized I had just smoked DMT, but I didn't know what was going on. My friends were packing bongs and hanging out, and it all looked so foreign. One guy asked me if he could grab a beer, and I responded with, "It's pretty cool, right?" At this point, I still didn't know what my own fucking name was. I just kept saying, "I don't know what just happened." This was when my brother asked me if I wanted him to explain what happened from his perspective. He said after I finished the bowl, I just told him I needed to go to sleep. He asked where, and I told him I'm going to sleep right here. He said I had my eyes closed for a minute, and then looked up extremely frightened and started repeating, "I don't know anything," and while holding onto my chair, just trying to take in the universe around me. Then I asked my brother if we were okay and if our parents just came out. I wasn't even at my parents' house. I guess this lasted a few seconds, and that's when my friends asked if I was okay. That's when I realized that I thought my friends asking if I was good was my dad for some reason. Then my brother told me all the weird shit started when I opened my eyes, and that made me jump out of my fucking chair. All of the information missing from my mind had just rushed back. From my perspective, when I said I was going to go to sleep, I woke up in a completely different reality. I remember the feeling of completely losing my mind, thinking I was done for this time. I've finally overdone the psychs, LSD and mushies for years, lol. For a second, it felt like I was utterly insane, lost my mind, gone forever tripping. It was indeed a humbling experience. I know it was terrifying at times, but I think this was the most impactful trip I've ever had. I still don't know why I saw a trippy DMT figuration of my father, but I know there's a reason. I will never again underestimate the power of DMT. Now that I know I have the courage to explore the depths of my mind, I feel like nothing besides losing that courage can stop me from living the life I want to live. To those of you that made it this far, I hope you all enjoy this, because it took me way too long to write. Take care of each other in this community, and keep exploring Psychonauts. Meeting the same bizarre DMT entities 3 times. DMT. In the past month, I have had 3 sub-breakthrough experiences involving the same very, very bizarre civilization of DMT entities. These entities are the strangest thing I've ever encountered during psychedelic experiences because they're far outside the realm of any archetypes or ideas that we have for aliens/spirits, etc. I want to detail the experiences here in hopes of making sense of these guys and seeing if anyone else has encountered the same or similar beings. Number 1, this experience was very sub-breakthrough, as I was just testing the freebase I'd acquired in a bong with other smokable herbs. Nonetheless, it was my first introduction into this space of entities, and it stuck with me. As I took the first hit from the bong, I felt myself immediately become heavy, and the effects began to take over. Not sure how many hits I ended up taking, as I instinctively laid down, and was presented with a series of indescribable string visuals, of bizarre realistic cartoon shapes and textures depicting things that resembled furniture. I looked around and observed these things, but ultimately it was all moving so fast, but I had the distinct feeling of a very particular strangeness encapsulating my entire experience. I could feel there was someone around me, looking at me. In the next moment, a cartoon woman that resembled a constantly shifting Mr. Game and Watch looked at me, and we acknowledged each other's presence. I was taken back by how realistic our interaction felt, as the voice in my head told me involuntarily, "Oh look, a person." She then began throwing colorful swirling objects at me, and before I could even be confused I felt myself coming down and my view of her faded. It was over. Number 2, the next day my friends and I decided that creating our own DMT cartridge would be the best option for all of us to have a sufficient experience. I put a gram of freebase DMT into the cartridge, and we met up that night. I was first to use the cartridge, sat up on the bed, and began taking hits from the vaporizer. When I'd taken a sufficient amount of hits, I felt myself lay back as I lost touch with my body. This time I was presented with that same weird cartoon furniture-shaped place, except this time it was much clearer to me. The weird cartoon shapes morphed together into the Shipibo pattern commonly associated with ayahuasca, and suddenly, I was struck with a large amount of telepathic information. It became clear to me that the shapes I saw were pieces of a gate into this microscopic dimension I'd entered, and that this time I'd gotten enough DMT in my system to go through the gate. I recognized the place immediately, and it all seemed so absurdly familiar, as if I'd been there before and didn't know it. As I passed through the Shipibo pattern, a bunch of information was shot into my mind about how I was very familiar with the space I was entering. In the next moment, I felt microscopic as I looked around a bizarre, constantly moving dimension of shimmering matter I can't yet describe. A person that felt distinctly female to me appeared, and stood beside me, and I realized the information I'd received was her speaking to me. I was not observing both of us from my own perspective, but rather from far away, and I could see that we were standing on a gigantic abstract hand. She told me that I'd been to their dimension before, and that I knew her very well. She was unconditionally loving to me, and so reassuring that everything was okay. She calmed my confusion and made me feel as if I were speaking to my girlfriend or my mom. After this, she took me above a gigantic Earth-like city that had an infinite golden outline along every part of it. Within the golden outline, I could see entities like her doing work of some kind. She told me that their dimension exists as the backdoor maintenance system of reality, and that they basically hold things together with the work they do. I was truly astounded and kept going, "Wait, really?" To which she assured me that this was all real and true. Eventually I began to connect with my body again, and she gave me a very kind farewell that left me feeling so loved. I had never felt euphoria like that on DMT, and it felt like the infinite bliss and gratitude of a high dose of mushrooms. After the dose wore off, I teared up a bit from how unconditionally loved I felt by that feminine entity. Still, I couldn't picture in my mind what it all looked like after I got back. Number 3, a week or so later, I was at another friend's house and still had this cartridge, and was curious about another go with. My girlfriend and a good friend were in the room with me. This experience is one of the strangest I've ever had with any psychedelic. I sat comfortably laid back on the couch as I began to pull from the vaporizer. The last thing I was aware of was looking down at the vape in my hand before I felt reality just change. I had no clue whether my eyes were open or not as it was starting. The same information as last time was downloaded into my mind, and the entities telepathically communicated to me, "Oh, welcome back. You've been here before, so you know the deal. Here you go," or this was the telepathic impression I had. The same feeling of familiarity came over me, which blew my mind again, but the female entity from before wasn't there. Instead, I felt that I knew these entities who were communicating with me, as if they were my friends. I saw myself go through the same Shipibo pattern much quicker this time, and the next thing I saw was a mind-blowingly bizarre room that looked like it was designed by Disney except 1,000,000 years in the future of hyperspace. It was also so absurdly real, much clearer than the room I was actually in. Small cartoon faces were etched into every part of the constantly changing design on the walls and floor, in which infinite colors, striped patterns, and the cartoon entities' eyes and teeth looked as if they were being randomized into the design of the room. There was also a television-like object in this room, that was floating in the air beside me and glowed pink, had the same ever-shifting patterns and displayed the strange cartoon entities smiling and laughing on the TV screen. Some objects in the room were just changing as I looked at them, like popcorn being popped, except objects were just changing into other objects I didn't recognize. I looked around the room's mind-boggling design and tried to observe it as closely as possible, because it was so fucking unbelievable and hyper-real. There were no actual entities present from what I could see, but I had the same feeling of someone being in the room with me. As I looked around the room, I realized that my girlfriend and friend were absolutely gone and not present at all. The room I was in had transformed into an entirely other space with some details resembling the actual room I was in, but mostly it was batshit insane. There was a strange giant waterslide type thing, LMAO, where my friend was sitting, and the room actually expanded in size 200x the more I looked at it. When I looked down, I realized the couch I laid on had become a type of small ship, kinda like something you'd ride in at Disney World. The detail was insane, and I wish I could describe it better. In this moment I thought that my real life was a dream, and that I was now awake, and felt so alarmed that my girlfriend and friend were gone forever. At the same time, I was too shocked to focus solely on that one thing, and could hear so many increasingly loud chattering voices in this future DMT Disney room. Moments later I began to open my eyes, called out to my loved ones, and made sure they were still there. I was very relieved that my life was real, and stunned out of my mind at how real that other place was. As soon as it was over, I stood up from the couch in disbelief at what I'd just seen and immediately attempted to find a drawing I'd seen which resembled these entities closest. The pattern on the walls and TV, some other detailing on the architecture, the general sense of strangeness. I'd seen these images once before, so I remembered them, but could never have imagined that anything in DMT actually looks like this, lol. A lot of high strangeness in these experiences, and it was a lot of mind-boggling fun. I took a lot of it mentally and emotionally, and it gave me the inspiration to put these entities in a science fiction novel I am writing involving DMT, the accidental creation of Earth/God by bizarre aliens, these entities and biblical events. Who/whatever those entities are really know how to design shit, but fuck, they're so strange and unlike anything else I've seen or heard of through psychedelics. Let me know if you've encountered any similar things, I'm very interested.